Hi guys, I'm Kasha. Welcome to the channel and welcome as always to our coffee times to discuss movies and horror. And today, as you can see by the title, I'm here to discuss with you movies that have killer families.
It's coffee time!
Now, killer families have been a staple of horror movies since Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. So today we're going to be talking about 12 movie recommendations, 12 horror movies that include killer families in horror. However, here is a spoiler disclaimer because obviously I'm going to dive a little bit deeper on why these movies include killer families, and for some of these movies that is part of the twist or the reveal. So I'm going to go for some of those movies a little bit more into spoilers. I feel like some of them are classics and everybody know that they include some sort of killer family, but others might be movies that you have not seen yet, or movies that are not so obvious that are about killer families or include this trope. So I'm just giving you a warning that this video might spoil some movies for you. I'm not going to talk about the ending of the movie, but obviously I'm going to be talking a little bit deeper into what the movie is about and why the movie includes some sort of disturbed family. And now that you have been warned, let's talk about killer families. There is something obviously so disturbing and deranged about families that are killers, and it has always been great material for horror writers. We have cannibalists, we have sadistic families. There is a lot here to choose from. One killer is terrifying enough, but when we have a whole family of deranged psychos, that is really the stuff of nightmares. On the surface, some of these families might look normal, loving, neighborhood families that you can easily trust, but once you get invited, you realize that there is no way out. So here are my 12 movie recommendations that include some sort of disturbing, deranged families, and we're going to be talking about them by the release date. So I'm going to be talking first about the older ones, and then we will end up with the newest one that I have on my list. Let's talk about a classic, and that is The Last House on the Left. Teenagers Mary and Phyllis head to the city for a concert, then afterward go looking for drugs. Instead, they find a gang of escaped convicts who subject them to a night of torture and rape. But what this gang does not know is that the place where they rape, abuse, torture, and kill these girls is actually next to Mary's house. And when they realize that they're that close, they pretend to be salesmen. Now the parents smell their lie and they start to plot revenge. This was Wes Craven's really disturbing directorial debut, and the viewers were introduced to the Silos, who were a family of sexual abusers and murderers. But now they will have to face Mary's parents, who are seeking revenge against them. Now this movie is quite controversial, and it's not a movie that is going to be for everybody, because Wes Craven does put us in really uncomfortable positions watching scenes that are quite hard to see. Obviously, I'm talking more about the sexual assault scenes. It was so depraved that the movie was actually banned in some countries, and it did get a remake in 2008, and then the original movie was unbanned in those countries, but this is quite a hard watch if you have never seen it before. Moving on to one of my favorite families, we have here the Sawyers. We're talking about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It is not a secret that the Texas Chainsaw Massacre has always been one of my favorite classics, and I've always kind of had a soft spot for Leatherface. And Leatherface is one of the most recognized villains because he is wearing a mask made out of skin from his victims. In the movie, we follow some teenagers that ran out of gas in the middle of Texas, in the middle of nowhere, and they come across a house and they feel like maybe, you know, they can help them, call for help or something, but they end up meeting the Sawyer family. One by one, they will be tormented and killed by this beautiful family of cannibals. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre is another movie that actually was banned in some countries because of the extreme violence on screen and how disturbing and depraved the movie was. The cannibalistic Sawyer family were prolific for torturing tourists and skinning their victims to make furniture pieces from their skin and their bones. Texas Chainsaw was hauntingly based on the true story of Ed Gein. But apart from Leatherface, I feel like this movie also had another character that was very more memorable, and that was the grandpa. And then also one of the most disgusting scenes of the movie when they are all having food together at the table. It's still quite disturbing to me. And we have yet another Wes Craven classic. We are talking about The Hills Have Eyes. A series of unfortunate events befall a suburban family when they get stranded on their way to California and are attacked by a group of psychotic cannibals. We have here the Jupiter family. These are deformed cannibals. They are a very disturbing family that feed on the flesh of people that sadly have come across their way. And they are very unlucky if they cross paths with this family. As you get to know the background story of the family and how they came to be this family and how they started targeting people and, you know, turning into cannibals and eating people's flesh, it's quite disturbing. Like when you get really introduced to everything that happened, started with Jupiter being born with some sort of abnormality that killed his own mother, and then he became aggressive and he killed his sister. It's just like a really messed up family, and I feel like the most disturbing part of it all is that Wes Craven based this on a true story, on some like family that used to live. If you dig deeper into this kind of hilly-billy families and that are living stranded somewhere in the US, it's quite disturbing. And you know what? We have another Wes Craven movie. I should have named this video The Messed Up Mind of Wes Craven, but also he was always a genius. And the next movie that I'm here to talk to you about is The People Under the Stairs. 3 burglars attempt to rob a house and get trapped inside. They are hunted by children who stay under the staircase of the house. This is one of his most disturbing families, which is the Robertsons, and I guess this is probably one of the most disturbing ones in a way because they look the most normal. They look the most like could be just your next door neighbor. The movie has a lot of social commentary and satire, and it's about this family that has a group of kids that they are parenting that live under the stairs, and this is a group of kids that are cannibals. Now let's go to the 2000s. We have Frailty. One day, a widowed blue-collar worker has a revelation. He must destroy those revealed to him as demons. He then begins the serial killings of God's Hand Killer across Texas. But he also has 2 kids. So one of the kids does idolize the father and believes of what the father is saying and wants to help. And the other one is horrified and doesn't want to support his father. 20 years later, the son that was really kind of shocked by what his father was doing decides to walk into the police station and confess. Bill Paxton's debut feature film is, in my opinion, a bit of an underrated psychological horror movie, and I've always had a soft spot for this film. I feel like it needs a little bit more recognition. So if you haven't seen it yet, even though I have talked a little bit about what you're gonna expect, so you might not be surprised by those things, you should still watch it because I feel, like I said, that it should be talked about a little bit more. And now we have a movie by somebody that definitely loves disturbing things, weird things, and that is Rob Zombie. We have here, obviously, The House of a Thousand Corpses. We have the Firefly Clan, led by Mama Firefly. This murderous and satanic family terrorized the Southwest over the course of 3 films. Sid Haig is the father, Captain Spaulding, and his demented offspring baby Otis and Tiny round out the clan. Now, you need to kind of enjoy Rob Zombie's creative mind in order to love these films. For me, you know, it was the characters, how different they were even though they were part of the same family, how crazy they were, how weird, and they are also a lot of fun. You know, this is one of those times where horror is fun. It's not just disturbing but you also have a really good time with these characters. Especially, I really always loved Captain Spaulding. With the first movie, House of a Thousand Corpses, you already see how disturbed this family is and how they would kill absolutely anybody. There are no limits for this family. They are absolutely nuts. They have no mercy. They would scalp like innocent travelers. There's a lot of horrors to discover with this family. If you're talking about torture porn subgenre of horror, you can take House of a Thousand Corpses and put it right into that category. Next, we have another one of my favorites, even though I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, and that is Wrong Turn. And I say it's not everybody's cup of tea because we're talking here about kind of toxically mutated inbred family, and I know it's a lot. Chris and a group of 5 friends are left stranded deep in the middle of the woods after their cars collide. As they venture deeper into the woods, they face an uncertain and blood-curdling fate. The group finds an isolated cabin and they decide, obviously, to go in and check out, see if they can get help. But instead of getting help, they end up finding basically their own death. But what they find there is actually 3 inbred cannibalistic mountain men. They look quite deformed. They look absolutely nuts. They are absolutely psychos. And of course, they're gonna hunt them down and try to kill every single one of these young travelers that are stranded now in their territory. Now, with this family, the thing is, the deeper you go into the franchise, as you keep going, the more disturbing, gross the movies get. And there are some sexual scenes as well that are quite disturbing. So just keep that in mind. I mean, it depends how much you can take. But I really enjoyed this family. I thought they were a lot of fun. Yes, they are intense. Yes, they're very disturbing. But, you know, it's fun. Moving on to another one of my favorites, and that is You're Next. And in this one, you would assume that the Davison family just looks super normal. So you have your case in which a family looks completely normal, and then we get the revelation that they're hiding something else, and it is the viewer that will be shocked by the reveal. The more we get to know the family, the more their issues become apparent. Mom likes pills, so that's the eldest brother's wife. Another sibling significant other is aroused by dead bodies. And when a trio of masked killers interrupt dinner, they devolve into bickering over who can run the fastest. So this puts a spin on the house invasion story, but also on the killer family one, because now we have a family that we know are deranged. They are not okay in their heads. They are weird and they are dangerous. But now there is masked killers coming for them. So, and trying to enter the house where they are at the moment. So it is kind of, it was a really interesting and refreshing movie for me because, you know, it's one of those movies where there are some twists and turns, that things I haven't seen before, and they do bend a little bit all of these subgenres. So this was, for me, one of the best that I have seen. Also, you can say that You're Next is a very funny comedy movie because of how deranged this family is and the things that they talk about, how normalized they are for them. The next movie I'm going to recommend you is actually a remake, but I would also say that you can check out the original, and that is We Are What We Are. The Parker family struggles to keep their traditional cannibalistic habits and hunting process hidden after the father of a missing girl finds bone fragments in a creek and vows to find the truth. The movie focuses on a family that are having a hard time finding their next meal after the father dies. The remaining members of the family would do absolutely anything needed in order to survive, and that is when we will realize what they are actually eating. They are eating humans. We learned that the family is a cannibal family and they just kidnap people that are passing town in order to survive, in order to be able to feed. This movie is one of the ones about cannibalism that it is the most disturbing, because obviously with the Texas Chainsaw or with Wrong Turn, even though we do have these cannibalistic families, they are kind of mutated inbreds. They are kind of like these really weird messed up families, but in this case we have a seemingly normal family that could be your next door neighbor, and we realize that they are actually killing people to eat their flesh. The next movie is one of my favorites as well. It was such a refreshing horror story, and I'm talking obviously about the amazing Get Out by Jordan Peele. Chris, an African-American man, decides to visit his Caucasian girlfriend's parents during a weekend getaway. Although they seem normal at first, he's not prepared to experience the horrors ahead. On the surface, the Armitage family looks like a loving, caring, accepting family. They're very kind, they're very welcoming, they take him in as one more member of the family, but as you keep watching the film, you realize that there is something extremely wrong about this family, but you cannot at the beginning quite pinpoint what is wrong with them. Jordan Peele did such a good job at kind of masking at the beginning this family and how actually disturbed they are, and he presented the family as warm and welcoming, and then he progressively started to bring doubts to the viewer. And this was such an amazing movie. If you have not seen it yet, I have tried not to talk big spoilers in this video, because even if you're watching this and you have not seen the movie, I would still love you to get surprised by some of the reveals. And now we're gonna talk about another one of my favorites. This was such a big surprise. When I went to see this at the cinema, I did not expect to love it as much as I did. And that is Ready or Not, which was also my introduction to Samara Weaving and how much I love her. I think I had already seen her in The Babysitter, but she did not quite catch my attention as much as she did with this one. After the wedding ceremony of a young woman, her new in-laws force her to participate in a seemingly innocent game. Things soon turn bloody and sinister, revealing the sick rituals of the family. Now, you might assume that an innocent game of hide and seek would be normal for a family whose business is basically games. They've been in the game industry, like board games and stuff like that, and other types of games. So of course it would be normal that to celebrate the wedding and a new member of the family, which is the bride played by Samara Weaving, you would think it's normal they want to celebrate with a game. However, Samara Weaving, the bride, is going to realize way too early that she's the prey and she's being hunted by the whole family. This movie was so much fun. That's what I would say about the film. It was just a lot of fun, and I love to see all the different family members. Some of them were completely on board with the idea. Others are not really like supporting this game, and I just absolutely love to see Samara Weaving in this film. There are a lot of things that are going to happen toward the end which are very, very refreshing and interesting when it comes to horror. I'm not going to spoil the ending for you, but definitely watch it if you haven't. It was almost, you know, like Knives Out, but make it horror. That would be my way to pitch this movie to you. The last movie that I would like to talk to you about is a movie that is Australian horror comedy, and I had a blast with this one. It was one of the movies that I watched during the Fantasy Film Fest a couple years ago, and I loved it, and that is Bloody Hell. A man with a mysterious past flees the country to escape his own personal hell, only to arrive somewhere much, much worse. After a robbery that turned bloody, Rex is sentenced to 8 years in jail. Now, when he has served his sentence and he comes out, he is being absolutely like harassed by the press, and all he wants to do is go somewhere else and distance himself for everything that's going on from all the media attention he's getting. So he decides to go to Finland. But the moment that Rex enters the country, the moment he is in Finland, he gets kidnapped by a family that probably on the surface, you know, if you will look at them from the distance, you would think that they were a nice, warm-hearted, regular family, but they hide a really dark secret. Rex is going to be now held captive in the basement of this family that we will really soon learn to know that are cannibals. As I said, this one was just a lot of fun. The comedy worked really well. I think that they did a great job because also the majority of the film takes place in the house of this family and the basement where Rex is being kept captive, and they did such a good job at keeping it entertaining. Definitely recommend you guys to check it out if you have not checked it yet. Alright guys, so these were 12 horror movie recommendations that have killer families. They have families, doesn't matter how big or small the families are, but these are families that are either absolutely deranged, disturbing. Some of them are even inbred families with deformities. Some of them are just sadistic, others are cannibals. So there's a little bit for everybody. We even have here families that look very normal on the surface, but at the end of the day, they also want to kill you. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Let me know down below if you love this type of movies that have these really weird, killing, deranged families, and if you have any other recommendations with this trope, let me know in the comments down below. Thank you guys as always so much for watching, and I hope to see you all in our next coffee time. Bye!